Robbie, ready to go.
Hey man, this is my wheelhouse, man. This is like lunchtime for me, peak time.
It must be nice.
How you feeling over there?
I feel okay.
Yeah?
Yeah, although I was just contemplating how I can feel different most mornings than the next.
What do you mean? Like just every day is different, or?
Kind of a little bit. Like some days I wake up and I'm just like, yeah. And other days I wake up I'm like, no.
Hey man, that's do you ever look back and think what you did or what you ate or if you worked out the day before to see how that impacted your mood when you woke up?
Do I ever think about it? That's all I think about.
That's all you think about? You can't find a pattern?
I can't. I really think it comes down to my sleep quality, and I just can't get a handle on why that isn't consistent. And but you know, I'm still searching. I know it's there, you know. I was thinking about that too. Like I'm 55, right? And that, historically that is like, all right, it's downhill from here. I just do not feel that way at all. I feel like it's...
Is that what people say? It's downhill at 55?
Well, I mean, that's kind of the imagery we have. I mean, I think it's shifting. I think people are changing it, and we're starting to see some amazing things for some older people. But I definitely think that my best stuff can be ahead of me.
Yeah.
So I'm not like negative about it. I'm just searching for it. And I think one of the things I've been doing, as I've been talking about yoga, and I've been trying to almost reclaim my body in a way. It's sort of like, I'm not calling it rest. I'm calling it, just reconstruction or something.
Reconstruction. I like that.
Yeah, because it's... I feel like I can do just about anything, but I also know that I feel like something's holding me back with it. It's just the tightness but that doesn't mean I feel weak. You know what I mean? Like I don't feel like I'm getting old and weak or anything like that. I just feel like something. It's kind of like the Tiger Woods golf swing thing. It's like something's got to give here. I got to, change my form, whatever the case may be. But anyway, so I feel pretty good, actually.
I think it's in a lot of ways that's a great time, you're for it. And if you have no idea what we're talking about, this is the Crushing Iron Triathlon Podcast, episode 222.
222. Remember Room 222? You remember that show?
No, I don't know.
No, you would never remember that show.
No,
I remember.
You're 55, man. I'm not.
Exactly. Now we're setting it up here. We cover all ranges of interests. We'll get into like some youthful things here in a minute, but Room 222 was sort of I think it was a sitcom back in the day. It was one of the...
And that's all they had back in the day.
I know.
They didn't have like reality shows or anything. Everything was news or a sitcom. There wasn't Netflix or Hulu. It was like sitcom or news. That was it.
Well, the news was more real, and sitcoms were funny, and that's why people were happier back then.
I'm not really sure I would argue with that. But you brought up a really good point, and that's something that I've kind of been struggling with here recently. Is like I think to me you sound like you're at a point to where a lot of athletes, even if they're slowly trending in the right direction, because. And I want to get to like the age thing and the numbers thing too, but is a lot of people will, even if they see like a bend in their form or their structure or their workouts or their training, or like if they have a new hair, they won't address it. They won't address the bend. They will just wait till something breaks. And then you're just totally set back.
Yep.
And that's something that like this time of year is great for that. It's just like and we always talk about this year in general is great for kind of creating durability and creating a really resilient chassis. And this time of year, people find themselves when they don't take time off and they try to hit the ground running and just keep pounding the pavement day in and day out, they're just gonna like slowly bend until something does break. But even if an athlete sees a bend, many times they'll say, I'm going to miss too much time. 2 weeks off, I'm gonna be a former shell of myself. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna start over. I might as well just like sell my bike and do something different. They're just so terrified to take time off because usually I think they know in like the back of their minds that it's not a bad thing. Most times it's just that they just still have a disproportionate or unhealthy or they just have a hard time framing their actual like good relationship with their training. Because if you take it away and it has that much of a like bad effect, or you're depressed, or like maybe it's time to like maybe reassess things. But it's a great time to do that, and I've been struggling with that. Preach, Maddie.
Hey, babe.
Hey, babe.
It's my babe.
What if my talks their dog like, hey, babe? And like sometimes I wonder why you're 55 and single. When you
I know, man. Like, come on. I'm just...
We're on the airwaves to like 63 people today,
Maddie.
And you're calling dog, babe. But on a serious note, like that's something that I've been like struggling with lately. I had a knee injury that kept me out of Ironman Chattanooga. I don't really think I ever discussed that on the podcast, but I had a stress fracture in my patella that kept me out and took a little bit of time off and just kind of getting back into things. And then about 2 weeks ago, I got done with the run and my left hip it was hard for me to walk for a couple of days. Tender, and I was like, I just need to. So I ended up just totally shelving everything. I quit riding I even quit riding for the rest of the week, and I just went back and looked. I was like, when was? I just need to get back to. Like it's just about like the finer details of what are you willing to skip and what are you not. And I was like, right now, as much as I want to continue on this trajectory of getting better, I don't want to have 3 weeks up and 2 weeks back. I just really, because my hip issue now is like on the same side. What a shocker that my knee issue was, which is like, that's totally common. Anybody's ever injured before usually has some kind of like, niggle or something that kind of arises from compensation or lack of strength. And so these past few days, I've really kind of gone back to things that I feel like I neglected in strength and even just taking extra time to do some things with my hips, in stretching those things out with my hip flexors and strengthening things. But it's been kind of one of those, I just need to take maybe 2 steps back of where I really want to be right now, because where I want to be right now means nothing comparative to where I want to end up. And while it might feel good to be able to do X, Y, and Z right now, if I can't do it at the end of the year at a race or whatever that matters the most to me, then nothing I'm doing right now it's really all for nothing.
Yeah,
because
it's
if your
all eye
ultimate
candy.
goal, it's exactly right. It's all I can. So instead of dressing, instead of it's that bend don't break mentality. It's all right. I see a bend and I feel a bend. I need to scale things back and fix things and readdress my approach to this training block and just really get back to strengthening and durability. And will it lead me to exactly like, will I be in the best shape of my life for Chattanooga 70.3? Probably not. But later on in the year, will I be at the best shape of my life? That's where I want to be. Then yes. So it's about like it's at having that confidence, but then searching for what will it take to make sure that I'm in the right frame of mind, that my body's in the right shape to be able to be ready for when it has to be ready to do the training that I want it to do. And so it takes a little bit of that, like you were saying, like, just I'm trying to figure it out and take a few steps back. But the numbers thing is also like so huge. And you said like there's like people who are older are now doing like these greater things. And I think some of it has to do with just the world we live in now. I also just think it's been a reshaping of their mind.
100%.
And I was having this conversation with an athlete earlier today, and this is somewhat, I think, you can apply it somewhat to this age thing as well. Is that like our relationship to numbers is almost always based on a lie. it's based on like a feeling or a thought or a aspiration or expectation that might not necessarily be appropriate. And like one of the major reasons why I think some people, you should do like some sort of like testing, especially on the bike this time of year, but really 2 times a year is really important. When you transition to inside only, because you're going to be there for a long time, and then when you're transitioning outside, because indoor and outdoor power is totally different. But anyway, I was texting back with this athlete, and she's like, oh, well, I was really hoping I was going to have this, even though we know her outside power is much higher. I said, well, one thing, and I think everybody just kind of needs to understand is that there are so many different power meters out there right now that are left side, right side, crank based, pedal based, hub based. You have people who use just the power on their quote unquote smart trainer. You have people who just use the power from like $100 sensor. You have people that use power from these programs like Swift and Trainer Road when they don't even have a power meter. And so they put these power meters out there like, man, this person is crushing it. But being a coach, I have seen so many times athletes will use one program like a Swift, and then they use their actual power meter that they're going to race on, and it might be like 30 or 35 watts difference, which is huge.
Yeah,
it's huge. And I have to be like, hey man, like I think I had this conversation last year with the guy, and I was like, hey man, I don't mean to burst your bubble, but this ain't right. Because that's like you racing at like 4.5 watts per kilogram, which is like pro style. I was like, and this is your 3rd month into this, and as much as I want to think you're that great of an athlete, as much as I want to think I'm that good of a coach, it ain't right. So we did a test with like what you should do on what you're going to race on, and it was like drastically lower. But to the point I was trying to make is that you could have sat there and done your test, and you really, really hoped for a 200, and let's say you did 220, but your power meter is so off that it always reads high. You're still going to be pumped. Versus if your power meter read truly accurate to your best effort and it was 5 watts, like 195, you would have been devastated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's all based on like it's all based on that perception and relationship to a number that frankly most of the time just isn't really in that frame. And then back to the age thing, it's like, are you really, like, you might age-wise be getting older, but damn, like, I can tell you right now, I don't feel like I'm getting older.
No.
Like, and again, it's that perception and honestly what you're willing to accept as truth or not.
Yeah. And it's funny, I saw something the other day, somebody posted, I can't remember where it was, but it was, I'm in my 40s and nobody believes it, but I still feel like I'm in my 20s. Until I go to a club, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm in my 40s. Where are the khakis? Go out to a nightclub or something.
Yeah, got the pleats in the pants.
Yeah, but it's a weird one, man. I don't know if it's just because I'm in my body every day or whatever, and you just don't really notice the change sometimes if it's gradual. But I mean, I definitely don't feel like I'm getting older. You know, it's sort of this. Same thing that's going on where I just kind of maybe I do a little bit like sometimes getting out of bed or like getting up or whatever, but even still I still feel like that was going on back in the day. So I'm just like really interested in this idea of correcting the body, the framework of the body or something like that. And I mean I went to get a massage yesterday. I'm just kind of dabbling around with different things. I haven't been taking off days per se. I've been doing strength exercises and yoga and maybe getting in the pool a little bit, but I just haven't been pounding it. And that's the other thing is like, man, you go out and run a couple of days and you feel like you got it back, and then you throw one of those runs you shouldn't in the middle of it. I just have to get back to run at my pace, build the chassis, build my aerobic capacity, and just build that engine, man. Because the minute you try and break it in before it's ready, you're gonna be paying for it.
Oh, it's like I was watching. God, this has been like probably a year ago, but Allie and I were watching some show on Netflix. It was basically about like some of the craziest constructed, structures of like all time, and like the behind the scenes of like the engineering and the actual. It was the like 2000, maybe 12 or 16 Olympic Swim Center, whenever it was in London. So I think 2012 maybe, and it was the construction of this like just crazy, where the place that they swam for the Olympics. And they're doing all these tests and all these things, and they had got done with like 48 hours straight work on some of like the scaffolding, and they went and did all the measurements, and it was off by like a half a millimeter.
Come on, that's amazing.
I swear. And they had to, and they stopped, and they had to go back and fix it. That's like the perfect example of seeing a slight bend and addressing it before you get so far in it actually something might breaks. It's just that obsession of like attention to detail of let's try to address things on the forefront, and let's do our best to like prevent ourselves from getting sick. Let's just not be the quickest person to jump and just start shoving, cold and sinus flus down our throat every 3 weeks because we just failed to recognize why we continue to get sick. What is it, like a pound of prevention is worth a pound of whatever they say right there. I'm not sure what it is. Somebody told me that one time.
An ounce of prevention is...
Or some, it's like worth a pound of like doing something on like it's like you might spend like an ounce of energy or whatever on preventing it, but it's so much better than having to use like a pound later on fixing it.
It's worth a pound of cure.
That exactly. Sure, that sounds good. It's a t-shirt coming right
that
through
room 222.
But no,
they used to say that a lot back then.
It's just like, and I try to get on athletes too. Sometimes they're like, you know what, I need to get back to, I'm real tight in my hips. I need to roll. Okay, well, how about we roll, and how about we don't stop rolling so we don't have to get back to this point?
Yeah, that's the thing.
It's just those like little bitty details, and I think everybody, like at this time of year when they look, as much as everyone wants to look forward. Again, let me touch on this on Monday. You look forward to like, all right, this year, what am I going to do this year? What am I going to do this year? Now that what I kind of encouraged athletes to do was like, look at all the things you did right. Well, now when it comes to learning things you did wrong, don't just look at your race results. Because that's what people are going to do first. I got to get that up. Okay, well, what choices did you make that led to maybe X, Y, and Z? Did you not stay in this phase, this block long enough, and then you got out of it quick because you thought that this was you had to do? You just got, most of the times we just get short-sighted, and it's that long term. Like, what is best for me long term? And if you see areas in which you need to improve, the best thing you can do is just quickly accept it. And it's just like this time of year when you are stuck inside for the most part. I mean, a lot of people are stuck inside for all of it. Swimming, cycling, and running because it's just so cold in certain parts, or it's going to get snow all the time. So they're on the treadmill and the trainer, or if they go swim, they're stuck inside. So it's just like, how can I measure myself? Because you're not racing, you're not able to do this, you're not able to do that. It's like, how do I know I'm getting faster? How do I know I'm getting faster? And that's when you have to just be totally committed to knowing that I know that right now I'm just putting the blocks in place, block after block, and it's going to build this chassis or this foundation in which I want to be prepared to have a great year. And that's why you always see athletes question why they struggle so much when they take 3 months off from like November, December, January, February, then they hop back in March, like, yeah, just, and they wonder why they just stay the same year in and year out. It's because they go back to skipping that foundational stage where they're creating durability and creating a better base and making their system more efficient, and they just skip it because they want to be where their friends are who didn't take all that time off and who didn't get lazy and who chose not to neglect things for 2, 3, 4 months. So they just skip it, and then they wonder why 2 months later they end up at Track Tuesday and they got hurt after running 6 400 yard 400s all out. You're like, I don't know, let me think. Oh, wait a minute, I'll use my common sense and say you weren't ready for that. But nobody likes to do that. They just like to jump in where we are, and it takes some humility, I think, and it takes some acceptance to just be okay again, like where you are, and that's okay. Like that's the majority of the time, if we're all being honest, we spend more time wishing we were either where we were or hoping or wishing where we want to be. Rarely ever do we just accept who we are and where we are today, and we're totally okay with that. We've always got the caveat of, this just isn't my current fitness, man. Like 2 months ago I was crushing. This just isn't a real representation of who I am. Yeah, it is. Like, you woke up today. Guess what? That's who you are.
That's it.
Suck it up. Deal with it. That's it. And it's also not, but I'm just going to get back into it. Give me like another 6 or 8 weeks. Well, guess what? We're not planning 8 weeks in advance. We're planning the next 8 weeks based who you are today, not in reverse. And that's just like accepting who you are today, remembering who you used to be, but not trying to plan today based on where you think you might be or who you want to be in like 5 months.
Yeah.
Do the best you can today. Deal with it that way. Move forward. Do it smart. Be efficient. Be consistent. And you'll end up being where you want to go because you'll be available to train and you'll be ready to race.
I think when you're younger and you're a little more pliable, or you think you are, that you dive into these, like what you're talking about. You more openly go into a Track Tuesday and start busting it out, and then you're sore and you're kind of resilient a little bit more. But eventually that catches up with you. One of the things I think about with me all the time is, and it's a little cliche to talk about this all the time, but balance. And I'm talking about like mental, physical, spiritual, but within the body, the balance piece in triathlon. If you're dominant on one side, and you do these repetitive exercises over and over and over and over, you're going to get out of balance. Because like, I always consciously think about my left side and how I can even out the effort between my right hand stroke and my left hand pedaling and my and running and stuff like that. Because you end up, and I notice this is exactly when I notice it too, when I get back into my yoga. I'll go over there and I'll be like, they'll be into, like the tree poses where you're basically standing on one foot and bringing your other leg up inside your thigh. And they're like, all right, let's start on the left. And I cannot even do it on my left. And then I go into my right hand, my right foot, and I can stand there for like 30 seconds. And it's an incredible imbalance. And I think that's what happens too. So then I get into yoga, right? And I keep going for a while, and this is what I got to remember, is that when you're realigning stuff like that and trying to balance out your muscle, your skeletal form and all this stuff, and it starts like working, sometimes that can be painful because your body is like readjusting literally, and it's taken so long to get there, and all of a sudden in a few weeks, it's kind of trying to straighten things out and balance things out and all that kind of thing. And you go through pain and you're like, man, this ain't working. It hurts. But it's a different kind of pain. And it's sort of like, you just need to sort of pay attention to that. We talked about this, I think, in a real early podcast about moving pain. It's just like, breathe into that pain, man. And let it go, let it heal or whatever, and move somewhere else. And that's really what I think. I just brought that up because it's sort of a little bit of a revelation I've made recently, is that when you're fixing stuff, it doesn't always feel awesome, It's like, when people go into surgery or whatever, which I'm not, like, that hurts because they're fixing stuff, and then the inflammation has to get in there and fix it. And that's what hurts, is like inflammation is the greatest warning sign and friend that we have, but too much of it and too many imbalances can cause a real problem with that. Because you're in chronic inflammation, you know what I mean?
Oh man, like I did I did these single leg deadlifts on Monday, and I felt like somebody just gave me a set of legs.
Yeah, I know.
And
that's
I was
the
learning
thing,
how to
the
balance.
weakness.
I was like, whoa, I am not that off. And I was like, yes, you are. And so it's time to get it back. But again, like, and I think one of the greatest things about that and accepting like where you are is that there is such you do and are able to see such an opportunity to go forward.
Yeah.
Because how many times in life have we tried to make everything on our own time and just totally effed it up? Instead of it just happening the way it's supposed to, without us like trying to put our ego and our everything we have into forcing it into this time frame and happening right now, and it's just got to be this, and we're gonna make it happen, and then it just like fails miserably. Instead of just committing to just day in and day out trying to do X, Y, and Z, and then it will kind of get there when we get there. Because the more you force things, the more pressure, like the pressure just goes up. And I don't care what you say about, you have to be you have to deal with the pressure and everything. I guess, if you're listening to this podcast, no offense, but you're not a high level pro athlete. If you are, thanks for listening. I'm just like, the amount of pressure that we all put on ourselves is like, listen, there's enough stress in life in general. Let's not just keep heaping the stress on us for these, to meet the stress or pressure, however you want to look at it, to meet these expectations or these race goals and to force our way into it early. Instead of just realizing, you know what, I'll be ready for it when I'm ready for it. But it's so hard to wake up on a Tuesday, all your friends go to track Tuesday, and you're like, you know what, that's not really good for me today because I know where I'm at. I'm just going to go out for my 30, 35-minute run and be okay tomorrow. Like, you know what, I'm going to challenge you. I guarantee you, if you skip track Tuesday for the next 12 weeks and just continue and you run 6 days a week, all easy to moderate pace, I guarantee you'll be in better shape than if you woke up every day, every Tuesday, and tried to do track Tuesday. Guarantee it. Because I don't believe many people can sustain 12 weeks in a row of track Tuesday, but I also believe that if they do it, they're not even going to come close to being able to run 5 or 6 days a week. But it's just that the pressure and the stress we put ourselves when we're so far away from anything of substance that's going to even show us if what we were doing is working. And that's why, again, it's so difficult, I think, this time of year, because people want to see the immediate return on like a small. It's like the guy that plays stocks and put all his money in one day and then draws it out the next, and then all in one day and then draws it out the next, and then goes all in on this one thing and all out the next. Like, dude, you're just like, you're always going to be guessing and you're never going to know because you're so worried about immediately seeing your return on investment. Every day, I gotta see my return every day of how much I made or how much I gotta see it every day. That you're never going to be able to. You're never going to actually get your training or your race dividends down the road, each quarter. And then finally, one day you want to actually like cash out, and you're going to cash out this like gigantic load of money in some big race you've been training for, and it's going to pay dividends instead of just drawing in and drawing out and always having to get that. But again, it's that immediate the instant gratification that in the society now that we live in is everything has to be now, and I got to see it now, and I got to do it now. Instead of just recognize that, you know what, maybe that's really not what's best for me. And it's aggravating to the millionth degree to listen to other coaches continue to press their athletes to run longer and run harder, and when their athletes I don't feel like I'm ready for that. Okay, what's also okay? Not racing. That's also okay. Not racing is okay. You don't have to have something on the calendar every single month. It's just not so many times. It's, to me, I get it. You're getting antsy and you want to see something, but it's like, what are you going to keep seeing? It's like continually going. It's like you go out and you have a really bad date, but you're like, you know what? I'm gonna go on it again and see what happens. Let's go to again next month. Things are gonna be different. And you go next month like, but you know what? Maybe it was just a bad day. Maybe I was off. Maybe she was off. Let's do it again next month. Let's just try one more time. You go next month. You're like, God, that was rough. All right, one last time. Let's give it a shot. You're just forcing it, even though you know things are crappy. You know it's not going to work out. You're a meat lover. She's a vegan. Things aren't going to click. You're going to go back out again. You're like, all right, let's give it 2 months. If I get 2 months, then. But that's what we do. It's like especially with like racing and stuff. It's just everybody gets so freaking antsy to test every 3 weeks, like, and race every 3. Like, just train and get better, and I promise you, things will work out. Promise, things will work out for the best.
Well, why is that so hard?
Tomorrow, but it might be September.
I get it. It's very hard to for people sometimes, and I think it is because you get that pen up, and you're not. I really think it comes down to confidence sometimes. Like you don't. You need to go out and show people rather than prove it. Do the things like you're saying that are right for yourself. The minute you get in a race, if you have the maturity and the discipline to go out and use a race for something that makes you better in the long run, I think that could be cool, I did it pretty well this year. I did an Olympic at one point just because I wanted to race. It was in town here, and it was close, and I think a lot of people deal with that. It's like, hey, we have a good race in town. It doesn't really fit into my training program, but so I went out, and I was I decided that I was going to do this Olympic, and my goal was to swim hard and bike super hard, and then, kind of keep my main running plan in mind and not go thrash myself for 4 days on the run. And I did pretty well, If I didn't win, I didn't get on my podium like I predicted, but that was, even more impressive in a way. Is like I really thought I could win my age group at this thing here in town, because that's what you want to do. You want to show out to the locals, and I just sort of stayed on my game plan, and I had a good time with it, and it didn't wipe me out for the next week, and I just kept rolling along towards Louisville. So I think that is something we need to keep in mind too.
Just say no.
Just say no.
Do you? Just say no. I mean, that's seriously.
Train to your shape you're in.
It's like the best advice you can give. Like this time of year, it's like just say no. Just do you. But it's even harder once you get into like the time of year when people can like start congregating and getting into groups and going on rides. Like, well, so and so's racing, so I was like, yeah, like that's not really gonna fit well. Like, I get it, but, is it going to be of huge benefit? Probably not. And now is it going to hinder you? And that's a whole different conversation. Like, is it going to help you? Probably not. Is it going to hinder you? Yeah, like, there is, like, a such thing as racing too much, and we've talked about this in the past, is that, like, especially when you get into when it gets warmer and the sun's out and we get our time back, it's like weekends are prime real estate. Prime real estate. And every time you try to do like a race every weekend, you're just giving it up. Once every couple weeks maybe, but the people who want to do every single week, like you're just giving it up. You're just giving it up. You're trying to sell $1,600,000 houses when you could in fact sell like five $2.5 million houses and make a little bit more commission. But you're the guy that always be closing, always be selling. Here I go racing again. Hashtag race week again. Episode 793 of this year. And you wonder why the episodes are always the same and the races are always the same. It just takes, but again, that's also where understanding the trajectory you want for your season. Because again, right now is a time where people are just, I would say 50 to 60% of triathletes right now are blindfolded swinging at a training piñata.
Yeah.
That's just what they're doing. They have no structure. They have no idea where they're going. They're doing the same thing that they did last year, just thinking and hoping and be like, I'm just gonna like keep swinging. Maybe one day I'm gonna bust. I'm gonna get that candy. But then somebody spins you around again. And you're like, oh shit, I'm lost. Or you get spin around again like, I was doing this. I was doing trainer road playing, and then now I was like, but I saw somebody doing run block. You know, what's that? A run block sounds good. And then, but I saw swim block. I'm gonna go back on some. Then I'm gonna hit train. You know, I might do Orange Theory 4 times a week. That's probably gonna be the ticket for this week. And then do Orange. I'm like, you know what? You know what I heard? I heard if I start doing CrossFit like 2 times a week, that's really gonna help my bike power. So I'm gonna hop on CrossFit. And they just go around and around and around and around and around. And like, don't get me wrong. Just training in general right now is a good thing. However, it doesn't necessarily mean you're taking all these good steps in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't mistake going through the motions for going anywhere. And we do that so often. It's like the old adage of like, being busy doesn't necessarily mean you're getting things done. A lot of times it just means you're not getting anything done. You're just busy being busy. Instead of like, being productive and producing are two totally different things. And this time of year, it's like, have a clear goal. Like, knowing what you needed to do in the past, look at what worked, look at what didn't work, focus on what you need to go forward, and then map the plan, and then put it in cruise, and just do it. And that's the other biggest thing, is people will hop on for like 2 or 3 weeks knowing that's what they should do. And then distraction totally sets in.
Yeah.
Because I need something different in my life. Let me tell you something. Variety is for the weak. Variety is for the weak. So many athletes get so stuck always wanting to have and crave variety that they fool themselves into thinking that variety is how you really get better. I gotta have variety. My body's always got. Okay, then tell me how you're gonna know your body's adapting. How do you know it can handle a consistent a specific training load? There is no like magic like just like keep doing the same like there's so much to be gained from constant repetition, and you need a little bit of variety, but you don't need nearly as much as everyone thinks that they need. I got to have a different bike workout every single day. Okay, well then, are you just going to repeat that cycle over and over again, and then 7 years down the road, you'll actually have 5 of the same workouts you can go back and analyze and tell me about those? And the other great thing about limiting variety and just being consistent is that athletes in the beginning might not like this, but then they end up athletes crave consistency, and they love being able to not be surprised and know what to expect. And that always also like to go back to like athletes. Do athletes like going back to race? A lot of athletes like going back to races they've already done because they know what to expect. And they can perform better, and they have a better benchmark from it to know if it was really a better race or it wasn't a better race. But again, like this time of year, just whatever course you're on, I just challenge you to stay on it. Pick a course, pick a training block, pick a weakness, pick a strength, whatever it is, and stay on it. For 8 weeks, at least, stay on it. Don't deviate unless something like awful happens, obviously. Do not turn right, do not turn left, just keep going. Because then at least you'll be able to figure out if it worked or not, or if it didn't work or not. Because so many athletes, like, when they just so I think I used this the other day with an athlete I was talking to the phone. Like, so many athletes try to create new recipes and new dishes with their eyes closed. They just throw shit in a pot, and then it might end up tasting great, and they're like, "Oh man, I have no idea how I even created that." Yeah. And they can't even create it again.
Yeah.
They have no idea what they put in it, or they blindfold and they throw all this crap in, and training here and training this and high intensity and low intensity and bike block and run block and swim block and all together and short taper and long taper, and they take it off and they're like, oh, that did taste like crap. And they have no idea what didn't work. So they just have no clue. So they're creating a different recipe and a different dish every single time.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of just sticking to a recipe that works. But in order to stick to a recipe that works, you have to know what you put in. You know, a tablespoon here, a half tablespoon here, a cup here, an ounce here. You got to know. And then once you get it really, really good, just keep making it until you've proven and get like, it's really, really good. I can keep making it. I can keep making it. Go right back to your training. This is working. This is working. This is working. This is working. Don't be the guy or the girl who finds like a training week like that's working, and then after 6-8 weeks, like, yeah, but I need something new. Oh my God, it's like the worst thing ever for an athlete. They pump their own brakes. They distract themselves away from a positive progression just because they think they need something different, or they just get bored.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Getting better isn't boring. So just find the recipe, your training recipe that works for you, and just keep making it and keep eating it. And then maybe 3 or 4 months down the road, once you're like, yeah, you know what, I can make it perfect. Now I can make it with my eyes closed because I've done it so many times. They said the greatest chefs in the world, like when they go out to like, you know, on these shows, you don't see them like get out their grandma's like cookbook with like, you know, crumpled up, you know, brown stained note cards out of their back pocket. They can just do it. You know, it's just it's memory. That's when they start to be like, you know what, I've got this down pretty close to perfect for what I think. Now let me see a site if I can start tweaking it to make it even just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? You gotta be fine first in order to be good, and you got to be good first before you can be great. So stop trying to skip steps and stop trying to jump to other ones too early.
Yeah, you got to own the foundation of it. Whatever you're attempting. I was just thinking about, you know, because I'm kind of in that wheelhouse. You know me. I sort of. Oh, I know.
I know.
I'm a seeker. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where I'm racing Wisconsin in September, and it's both a long ways away and not that far away, you know? So I've got time to do what you were just talking about, which is stay the course for 8 weeks. And I agree. I mean, this whole analogy with the investment is I just think it's such a perfect analogy, because in the long run, we want to get stronger and enjoy this thing more and more and get better at it, not continually go up and down like a crazy stock market where it's like, I love this sport, I hate this sport, I love this sport. And it's good to like a sport, you know, just to like what you're doing too. I mean, it's just this extreme approach that so many of us will take to whatever it is. You see the new thing, and then the next day you're just out there doing it, and it feels amazing, and you're like, this is the answer. This is it, so right here. This has got it. And then, like,
best class ever, best decision I ever made.
Man, this is and you're just so relieved. It's like you just figured out life. And then 3 days later, you're like struggling to kind of keep it going, because in some of this goes back to what I was saying about how when you start stretching in yoga, because that's a good example, actually. When I get 3 or 4 days into yoga, the first few days are amazing, and then the third and fourth day are just kind of like, I don't know, because it starts hurting, and you know you're waking up your body and you're doing good things to yourself, but you aren't as psyched about it anymore, because it's like it's not giving you that endorphin rush or that newness feel, even after 3 days. And I think a lot of us do that, you know. I think a lot of us. People don't crave change as much as they want to tell you, or as much as they show you they do. People just have zero confidence in their level of commitment. That, and they're looking for answers. Like, yeah. I mean, it's like, that's why February is like one of the most awkward months we have. I'm going to vote February awkward month.
of the
Awkward.
12.
Okay.
A, because it's got Valentine's, and you have that like that weird conversation like, so what are you doing for Valentine's? Oh, at home eating ice cream, watching Friends. Nothing wrong with that. But it's also like, hey, so man, how's that new diet going for you? Because they started like some, they all of a sudden started selling, vegan ketogenic chocolate pudding drops, and they'd be like, I've been doing it, man. It's been crushing it. It's the thing. And then you walk around, you see him in February, like, hey man, how's that thing going? Man, I just figured out it just wasn't really working for me. It just wasn't really working for me, man. Like after 2 or 3 weeks, like I was feeling a little bit better, but I just think there's something better out there. And the next month you see him on something else, you're like, here we go again. Like you're never gonna know that quickly, even though we want to. And so we're always jumping for something to satiate our desire and our appetite for instant gratification, because instant gratification has nothing to do with progress or success. Zero. They don't even come close to hand in hand. But we see people jump from like 3 to 4 week things all the time, and sometimes you gotta be like, oh, you know what? Maybe it's not this product or this diet or this training. Guess what? Maybe it might be the person applying it, or it's one of those user error things that you see a lot. It's like, that's not. I mean, that's like me in technology. I call it customer service or help desk, and I'm like, yeah, man, that's not us. That's user error. I'm like, you're totally right. But
yeah.
You always flip to this and this and this and this when A, you haven't given it time, and you haven't given it enough time for you. And I just think that it's that people, I guess to a huge extent you are right, is that people do crave change because constant change prevents commitment. And committing to something long term ultimately also means I'm totally in. And when you go totally in, your attachment and your relationship and the amount of, maybe good pressure, like it's like, it's like when you really, really, love someone, or you're totally invested in this. Like if you lose it or it's not, it's just so much harder than if it was like, somebody you barely know for like 2 days. So it's just that level of commitment and that level of investment that you have on it that just keeps going, and some people are totally scared of that. They're terrified of it.
Yeah.
I don't really want to. I don't really.
I mean,
hello.
I'm over here.
Hello.
I'm in the room. I'm in
the room.
I'm right here.
Hey, babe. Hey, Maddie.
Come here, babe.
Yeah, it is. I think that's. I mean.
Hey, man. How does this apply to addictive personality? I think it's right in that wheelhouse, right? On some level. I mean, we don't need to go deep in that right now, but
no, I mean it's
it's like new fix, man.
That was so when I was in treatment a little over 5 years ago, it was baffling to me at that time that they weren't anti-working out. They just didn't really want you to do anything that would maybe give you an opportunity to move your thoughts or your impulses or your attachment, because if you struggle with any kind of addiction, it's that just like it's very common for people who suffer from the disease of addiction to like just bounce from one thing to another. It's because a lot of it's so behavioral. But I think they allowed you to like go to the quote unquote gym like once a week for like 20 minutes. And then you see like all the it's just funny, like after going to the place that I went and the structure that we had, like no TV for 90 days, no cell phone for 90 days, no computer for 90 days. You barely could talk to anyone. I think I talked to you like once for like 10 minutes, I think. And I had to like allocate 10 minutes away from talking to Allie with like the 30 minutes I had for the week. But then you don't have anything else. But then you see like these other places that have like the passages of Malibu that have like endless pools and palm trees and fitness facilities that like make Lifetime Fitness like feel like a dump, and you're like, holy crud, dude, I might not even like relapse. I might just go there for like 30 days to go on vacation. But the reason behind it was they want you to figure out you, not you again supplementing with something else. And so many times, like in life, and you have to like always question this, at least for me in my own recovery, is like, why am I doing this, and is it really this or is it me? 99.9% of the time, it's me. It's got nothing to do with the other person or the other thing. It's me. And so it's not that this didn't work. It's usually that I failed to use it or do it correctly. But so many times, but again, that also like comes right back to looking yourself in the mirror and being like, was it really, this that didn't work, or was it me that didn't work with it? Like they one of the first, like, I'm not going to quote it directly because I can't, I'll brutalize it, but when people encourage you and you start going to AA, and they always say like, it works if you work it. But and it's a proven program for a lot of people, but guess what? It won't work if you don't work it. But you can't just like halfway do it to figure out if it's going to work or let it work. People, go through like the 12 steps when you're going through recovery, and people stop at 4th. I'm like, it didn't really work for me. And like, because they go to step 4 and there's like a thing that say like, step 1, 2, 3. And then they would say like something like rehab or something, because people don't make it past that one. But it's just like, you have to like,
it's painful, man.
It is. It's painful, but like, go through the whole thing and find out, instead of just, but we do. And I think that's how we are as humans, unfortunately, is we place blame on everything or everyone else except for ourselves. When in reality, 99.9% of the time, the person who has the biggest effect or the only effect on how your day really goes is the person you're looking at in the mirror. And instead of bitching and moaning about everybody else making your day horrible, guess what? Attitude and mood are most likely, or I think most oftentimes, just a choice. You can choose to get hurt. You can choose to get stressed out, or you can choose to do something different or be a different way. And training is the exact same, triathlon and with everything else and relationships, whatever it is. It's, some things aren't going to work out. They just aren't. But more oftentimes than not, like, I think it's always best to look in the mirror and be like, you know what? I probably just didn't apply that the right way. So maybe it was like, or maybe it was both of us, or maybe it was this block and me, and maybe it just wasn't the right time. But it's so much like, what I don't need to always change and change and change and change and change and change and change all the time, but we do. And that's why hacks and short-term things are so successful. It's got nothing to do with them being a success for you. They're successful because 90% of our population can't stick with a damn thing for a long period of time. So if there's one program that's 12 weeks or 6 2-week programs, guess what? People are going to pick 6 totally different 2-week programs. You want to know why? Because it gets their engine going. It gets they get their jive from 2 weeks doing something different. And guess what? They're going to end those 12 weeks just having, not really done anything great in 6 different areas, versus the guy who's like, you know what, I'm going to get, because you go online and you're going to pick, 12 weeks, that's a long time. 2 weeks, I got that. And then you get to the end, you're like, wait a minute, that wasn't I'm going to find another one in 2 weeks. I just need some more time, just different. Yeah,
something different. I'm fascinated by that thing you were talking about where you were phoneless, TV-less, and don't working out for 90 days. That we can talk about that, but like, imagine if you had to do that right now, if you're listening, and that would be a thing, it's like, but the point of that, I guess, is resetting, right? It's like you're saying you can't.
Oh, it was a total reset.
And that's what I was getting at, sort of that similar thing with, staying through yoga, appreciating, or, changing your body and the way you look at things. It's sort of like it's hard to be with yourself like that and not be distracted. And I think that's what you're saying about like workouts become, I want a different workout. I need to, because I can't just be at peace with this same workout 2 days in a row or 3 days in a row.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't happen. But I think that's the whole point, is that you have to get comfortable with that in order for real long-term gains to sustain and, happen.
Well, there is nothing harder than staying on the task at hand. It's so much easier to do something else. Oh. I mean, that was one of like or deal with what you really need to do. That was like one of the main things that when I was getting sober and in treatment was like, guess what? We're going to strip you of everything. Everything. So the only thing you have to worry about, that you can worry about, and the only person you can see in the mirror is you. Because I think one of the main reasons people struggle with those kind of things and don't end up staying sober for long periods is they fail to look at themselves.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's so much easier to blame everybody else. It totally is. And yeah, we all have like bad things happen to us and things. I mean, we've all done our share of crappy stuff too. But when it comes to like training and triathlon, it's like it's just so much easier to place blame. To place blame on a coach or a training partner or a training block or a bike or a not having this or a this, I don't have this equipment, or I don't have a coach, or this coach is terrible for me, or I just didn't, I don't have, like, it's just so much easier to place blame. Like, you know what, I'm just not where I want to be because I haven't done the work. And so, woulda, shoulda, coulda, I didn't. Not, woulda, shoulda, coulda, woe is me. It's just, but it is, it's just so hard to stay on the task at hand. And it's so much easier to just deviate and to stop and to go. It's like that image or like a picture that people share a lot where there's this dude like with a little pickaxe, like mining away. It looks like forever. And he ends up quitting because he's like, when he's like 3 inches away from like striking gold or something. Yeah,
breaking through. I saw that too.
Breaking through. But and it's such a great image.
Mm-hmm. And just one more thing on that, back to the 90 days thing with you is, if you're, the other thing is like staying on the plan and doing all these things in triathlon, these workouts that feel boring or whatever, but might be going in the right direction. But you're doing them with nobody watching. It's like, that is because you're out there, and when you're in that with 90 days, you've got people around on the same mission for the most part, right? I mean, you got people there that are kind of like, you're doing things and that this is what the right move with the right direction, and people are there to support it. But that's what even makes it, I think, sometimes harder for triathletes, as we go out and we think we're doing the right thing, but there's really no one there to support that. Especially, if you're not training with anybody, or if you're not getting coached by anybody, or you have somebody there say, hey, that was awesome, man. Nice slow ass run, or whatever it is. Way to go. I'm proud of you for going off for 2.5 miles today.
It's such a good, dude. It's like music to my ears that you even said that, because I've had athletes ask me, why are you even having me run for 15 minutes? So next week you'll make yourself run 20.
Right.
And then the next week you'll make yourself run 25. And those might be your shortest runs for the week, and they're all supplementary and they're like recovery runs, but like it's if you're not going to run the 15, why am I to expect you're going to run the 20? And why am I going to expect you're going to run the 25?
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all relative to the max run distance, or what you think is worth it or not. But and honestly, like, there are so many times even just recently when I go back to like the reason I think so they set things up the way they do in these treatment centers, or at least some of them, like every minute of your day is basically scheduled out. And I'm super routine based anyway, but I remember like I had the same routine every single day, especially the first 2 hours of my day. I woke up, I was like one of the first people up, started coffee, went to the main table, and wrote letters for like an hour. And then we had those things start. And sometimes even like, man, what if I would just woke up every day and just went down on the kitchen table and started writing again? Like, would that trigger like falling back in a category of just, getting things done and making things about me? And it's like those little small things that you do routinely. And I think we've all done them. I think everybody at some point in life has been really, really, really consistent with something. I mean, the podcast for you and I, Monday through Thursday for over 2 years now. Definitely the most consistent thing that I've done voluntary. I mean, the sobriety thing is more life or death, so it's kind of like it's different. But this is totally different, But so like, why don't if I just like, so if I can do that, why can't I do this, Y, and Z? Like, okay, well maybe I need to figure this, and maybe I need to figure that out. Why? And then I think it's just because we've all been there. And I think we can all go back and look at a part of our life where we were super consistent with something, and we got it in a routine, and we made it stick, and everything happened, and it was like, oh man, things were good.
Yeah.
So how can I get that back? And what was I doing there? The small things to make things like when I was once I got past like my first 30 days and I actually started to think like a clear human being, I committed to going down to the river and saying my prayers and then coming back. But you're not allowed to go like 200 meters from like where you're supposed to be at that time. But I had an RA named Leo, greatest guy in the world, who he was like, I'll drive you down there every day if you want. And I went for 60 days straight. And I was in there like January, February, freezing my butt off. But I went anyway. Because I started doing, I was like, I want you to see, because my therapist at the time was like, I challenge you to do this for 60 days and see if you can make it. And that, I really do feel like that part is like, I think it's just you, by being consistent and by being like process oriented and by seeing positive outcomes from it, you continually convince yourself that you can continue to do things.
Yeah. Because
at that point in my life, it was like, oh my God, like I could make like 90 days without drinking. This is huge. Versus now I'm like 5 years. I'm like, I don't like, it's crazy. But but in order to see and gain those like small wins and those confidence boosters from the consistency, you got to do it first. And it doesn't always have to be in, and I think we even talked about this on the Monday podcast, is to the people who do like the 100 days of running in a row or do these challenges. The biggest benefit these athletes, I think, take from it isn't the physical benefit.
Mm-hmm.
It's the mental and emotional confidence boost that they get from knowing that they can commit to doing this every single day because they just showed you that they can. And Ross said something so great on our closed space, Ross Kaffenberger, in our closed Crushing Iron group. He said, find your pull buoy. Because we were talking about, like using a pull buoy and it makes things easier for a lot of athletes, and they can do things. So they go to swim more. And he just said, find your pull buoy, find whatever it takes for you to find a way. And I think that also is just very applicable to this discussion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're so right, man. It's like the mental training for that is so huge. It's just like that thing about you writing letters in the morning, like. Because there's a book called The Artist's Way. I can't remember if I've talked about it, but they prescribe morning papers, which is basically getting up and freehand writing for 3 pages. Doesn't matter what you write, just write it out and write. I don't know what to write 100 times if you don't know what to write, but just it's sort of like. But their point being is that A, it creates a habit, but B, you wake up a lot of times. Whether I don't know, confused is the right word, but you've got like baggage just kind of clunking around in your brain, and a lot of times that's the stuff that comes out on paper, and you just throw it out of your head, and that way you can face the day with a little bit of a cleaner perspective, and really maybe know where you're coming from. And it's weird, whenever I used to do that consistently, like towards the end of the 3rd page, I would sort of like prescribe my day and be like, oh, this is what I'm going to be doing today, because this makes sense. It's almost like you cleanse yourself and you get to a point where you can clearly see what you really want or something like that. So I think that, definitely writing and airing that stuff out is a good thing.
Writing is a good thing.
Writing is a good thing.
You probably still have the letters I wrote you on your refrigerator, don't you?
Oh yeah, I do. I don't have my refrigerator anymore, but that's only because I don't have any of those magnets. But if you get me some, I'll put them back up. But I do see them.
No, that's good.
Every once in a while I'm going through some boxes. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, whoa.
Oh yeah, Allie kept every single one that I wrote. It's if you've ever been to our house, if you've come to a camp, there's like a big glass jar like on the left of our entertainment center with all these letters rolled up with like a green string around each one. And every once in a while I kind of pick a random one out.
Yeah, what kind of feelings does it give you?
Oh man, it's just like it's weird. And that's a topic for a totally different.
That's like going back and listening to the old podcasts.
Yeah, it's worse than that. It's definitely worse than that. It could probably be a podcast of itself. Letters from a long time ago. But again, like just it's symbolic of consistency in what you're capable of, and that's like, so when I'm in the same room with it right now, and I look at it, I'm like, that's just like it's proof. It's living proof of consistency and making time if you choose to want to make time. Because I could have slept in, and I could have done all kinds of different things. But if it means something to you, then you're going to make time, and you can do it every single day, whether you think you can or not. And some days you might have to make yourself do it. Mm-hmm. But there's just so much. There's just so much safety and security, also, and comfort in routine, and not variety. And I just think it's very underrated.
Yeah, I know. I think so too. I mean, you always see it too, right? In these legendary figures, you read their biography, and it's like, so and so got up every morning and dusted the window ledge every day of his life. And you asked him why, and he said, "I don't know. I just knew it was the right thing to do, and it just worked for me," or something. It's always.
And the rest of the day was good.
Yeah.
That's the thing. It's like little things like that aren't so much. They're not about the little thing. They're about the big picture. It's about the big picture. Mm-hmm. It's about showing you can. It's about showing you can stick with it.
It's like a microcosm of the race, I think, too. It's like,
it is. Why
do you not run your ass out of transition at 7:30s? Or, why do you, just make sure everything's on and walk those first 20 steps or whatever it is to set your mind up for the whole rest of what's coming down. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of the routine of each day, maybe.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Huh. Well, there you go.
There you go. A little bonus cast for everybody.
A little bonus cast.
Hope you enjoyed it. We'll come back to you on Monday again for podcast 223. If you want more information about anything we do, you can always just go to the one-stop shop that is crushingiron.com. We have information on our training camps, our swim analysis, our coaching and training packages, videos, blog, all those kind of things. And then all the way to the right, you can also click on the club tab. We have a club membership going on right now. It's $2.99 for the year. And you got access to all of our training plans and even a 12-week customized plan, all put together by me, and Mike will be your coach, and 30-minute consultation with him. We've had a really good turnout from that. And we're both very, very happy with it, and just talked to and connected. I know you have with a lot of really awesome people. So that goes to the end of the month at $2.99. So if you're waiting and you're debating and you're lingering and you're straddling the fence, hop on one side or the other, because this side of the fence is a good one. It's only $2.99, but then it's going to be $3.99 after January 1st. So if you have any questions, more in-depth questions about that, you can always email Mike at crushingiron@gmail.com. But look at it. If you have any other questions for anything else, you can always email me as well, c26coach@gmail.com.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Perfect.
All right, buddy.
All right, dude. See you, man.
See ya.